Oh, goody.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Zombies here again, and today we're back with another Marvel Snap video. So today we're talking about the new limited time game mode, High Voltage Overdrive. Pretty excited for this one. So High Voltage has been kind of a fan favorite of the limited time modes, and now we're getting a interesting new twist on it. So let's talk about what this game mode is, the changes to it, what new banned cards there are, how this might impact the mode, as well as some decks that I think will be good to play in it on day one. So what is different with High Voltage Overdrive compared to normal High Voltage? The idea of High Voltage is still the same. You still have shorter games, you still have all this excess energy, but Overdrive seeks to add a little bit more randomness and chaos to it, as well as an additional turn, upping the max turns from 3 to 4. Now, if you are an enjoyer of the original High Voltage, this isn't going to be a permanent replacement or anything, but it's just something they're trying an iteration of, and it's one I'm personally pretty excited for. So, how does Overdrive work? Much like in the original High Voltage, there is no snapping and no cubes to be gained or lost in this mode. High Voltage Overdrive takes place over 4 turns instead of the normal 3. At the start of the game, 8 random charged cards are going to be shuffled into your deck, each of them getting -1 cost and +1 power. You might notice where the cubes normally are, you will instead have an arc reactor. This reactor will be generating between 2 to 4 max energy to add to your total each turn. And you and your opponent will always receive the same amount of max energy from the reactor. Now, the reactor only adds energy on turns 1 through 3. The 4th turn, no extra energy will be added. Underneath the reactor, you'll see one of a bunch of different reactor effects. And each turn, the effect will increase and scale as long as the reactor is active. So turns 1 through 3, your reactor effect will scale up. Playing a charged card adds 1 charge to the reactor. Once the reactor has 5 charges, it will explode with the listed effect at the end of turn. You can decide how much you want to synergize with the effect, so you can play your charged cards early or hold them as long as possible to maximize the effect. Now, there are a lot of different overdrive effects for this mode. They haven't been specifically outlined, but we have an idea of them through the data mines, and they seem like things that are going to really put a twist on the mode. On top of the fact that your decks are going to be much less consistent than they were before due to the 8 randomly added charged cards that are in your deck. So if you're someone who didn't really like how High Voltage kind of boiled down into spamming Black Panther combos or whoever can Shang-Chi who or Juggernaut a lane, that's going to be happening much less consistently due to the random cards added to the deck. So combo decks are definitely taking a bit of a hit in this version of the mode. In terms of the effects, I'll just list off some here that we know from the data mines. Each player repeats X on revealed effects. Each player adds X chimichangas to each location. Draw X cards, their costs become X. And the X here being represented by how much your reactor has been charged. Transform played charged cards into X cost cards. Destroy the 2 locations with the lowest power. If there's a tie, leave one. So Galactus at home. Give each charged card plus X power. Move X cards 1 location to the left. Destroy each player's lowest power card. The winner of this game gets twice as many volts. Each player adds a blob to a random location. So there are a lot of really kind of fun, wacky effects. And I think the name of the game in this High Voltage is it's trying to be a more random, chaotic experience, which I think is good. I think that will offset one of the main complaints about High Voltage, which is that everyone ends up playing, very similar decks that are all trying to do a big combo thing or deny a big combo thing, and it feels a little bit played out. Just by the nature of the randomly added cards to your deck and the extra effects from the reactor, I think you will have way less games that are going to be feeling similar, which I think is going to make for a more fun limited time mode. Now, with the changes to High Voltage Overdrive, there have been some notable additions to the ban list, so we'll go over those quickly. The current ban list of the format is Loki, Quinjet, Mysterio, Cassandra Nova, Magic, Black Widow, High Evo, Kang, Darkhawk, Galactus, Alioth, Agatha, Gorgon, Agamotto, Thanos, and Arshem. Nothing super surprising here. I mean, I guess the one that's a little surprising to me is High Evo, but I guess they're trying to do that so you don't get randomly upgraded High Evo cards, even though I don't think that'd be too big of a problem. But in general, a lot of this stuff makes sense in a mode where you're going to have naturally much bigger decks and more randomness. getting rid of things that offset that or give you even more benefit to having a bigger deck size, or a benefit to countering a bigger deck size, it makes sense that you probably don't want those in the format, as it would lead to more homogenized gameplay. So overall, I think this is a pretty solid ban list. As usual with the limited time modes, we have some rewards. The two main things people are going to be looking to acquire from this are Kid Omega and Cobra. Cobra is a Series 4 card, 2/3, activate, destroy an enemy created card here. Cobra used to steal a card, now it's destroy a card. Pretty decent, little niche, but there are a lot of created cards running around in the metagame, so I do think this card will end up finding a decent home. And then Kid Omega, we have a return of a Series 5 card in a limited time mode, something we haven't seen since the days of Cassandra Nova. Kid Omega is a 2/1, activate, destroy the next card you play this turn to gain its power. So this is the card that Elixir was really missing. Maybe it'll breathe some new life into that previously not very good card. These are going to be available in the High Voltage shop. They will be available in snap packs sometime after the mode ends, but if you want to get them as soon as possible, getting them through the event shop is the way to do that. We do have some data mine information about the shop, so we'll take a quick look at that. There are some new emotes here, Pray on It and Confident. There are also going to be milestone rewards like we've seen in the past. The track looks a bit different than it did in the past, and it seems a bit longer. I'm hoping that there is a little bit more of a reward for winning games this time around, so there's an actual incentive to play the mode when you don't have quests. Previously in High Voltage, you got very, very little for winning in terms of progressing your milestone track. So you really were just incentivized to only play the mode when you had quests. So I'm hoping that with this new milestone reward, there's a little bit more reason to actually play the mode when you don't have quests to be completing for those reward points. But yeah, a lot of different stuff here. We have some tokens, we have some credits, bunch of cosmetics, pretty nice assortment of stuff overall. And we have some overload currency, which is going to be how you get some of the other stuff in the shop. So the first thing in the shop is going to be a portal pull that costs 15,000. There are going to be two variants in here, Storm, Iron Lad, and then the Cobra card. I believe this is going to be just how it worked in Sanctum. So you spend 15k, you get one of these three at random. And then at the 50,000 mark is going to be Kid Omega. So I imagine this one's going to take a bit more grinding to get this card. We don't really have any idea how fast or how slow it's going to be to get the currency, but I'm going to try and do a follow-up video about this mode this week, going over some more proven decks for the mode, as well as how much you have to play to actually get these cards. But yeah, these are the current currency amounts we know for Cobra and Kid Omega. There's also some other stuff in the store here. We have a Doom variant, we have some more emotes, we have a bunch of various cosmetic stuff, so pretty interesting. Some brand new stuff like a metal chain border, so I'm interested to see how people end up responding to this. I personally really enjoyed the Sanctum shop and how there were a lot of different things you could get, so no matter what you were interested in, be it cards or cosmetics or various currencies, you could choose what was best for you. But yeah, that's what we can expect to be in the shop as of the current data mine. All right, so now we know what the deal is with High Voltage Overdrive. What are some decks you should play during it? So in general, I think the deck construction is going to matter a bit less in this one compared to normal High Voltage, because of that inherent randomness factor of the random cards in your deck, as well as the effect the reactor is going to have on the game. I think much like locations, the reactor will have a pretty big impact on the game, and obviously will benefit some decks more than others, but that'll continue to add to the variance. So if you're someone who didn't like the lack of variance in previous High Voltages, this iteration might be more fun for you. So I threw together 3 decks here that I think will be pretty solid in the mode, but because of that added random factor, I'm sure it'll take a little bit longer to refine this, and I'll be doing a follow-up video going over some of the best decks in the mode this week. Starting out, we have High Voltage Zoo. So Ebony Maw, a little bit worse than in previous High Voltages because now there are 4 turns instead of 3. However, with a deck like Zoo with Ultron, we can still leverage him very effectively as a big overstated body that we can get into the lane later on. This is also a very budget-friendly list. There are no cards above Series 3 in this list, and that wasn't really something I was intentionally doing. This is just based off an old version I had success with in the mode. I did end up adding Onslaught to this list just as another big powerful effect since there is an extra turn. But yeah, the idea of this list is very simple. You spam the board with your zoo cards, and then you try and buff them up with Khazar, Blue Marvel. Get Dazzler real big from filling up your board. Use Patriot to buff up all the Ultron drones. We have a little bit of interaction here with Juggernaut and Negasonic, who have both been MVPs at just scamming games in high voltage in the past, and Shang-Chi is our main piece of interaction outside of them. Zoo-style decks have always been really good for me in high voltage, and I don't expect that to be too different in Overdrive. So if you're looking for something that's pretty simple to play and also very budget, you can't go wrong with this kind of list. Next up, we have Arshimless Arshim. So much like Arshim, High Voltage Overdrive is giving you a bunch of extra energy and a bunch of random cards. So what if we tried to build a deck like it's Arshim, but obviously it's not because Arshim is banned. So yeah, if you've played Arshim before, you probably recognize a lot of these cards. We have some early game generation stuff and Valentina and Iron Patriot. Again, we're running Juggernaut and Negasonic as interaction, Copycat as a generically good 3, more interaction in the form of Shang and Enchantress, Galacta just for the power, Infinity Ultron just because he's kind of cool and fun and can do things more easily with the extra energy, Legion's always a great card at scamming out games, Mockingbird to get benefit off of those randomly generated cards, and Isan for that same reason. I'm not really sure how this one's going to play out, but I think on paper the concept is solid. Arshim is usually pretty effective at leveraging these cards, and since the mode provides similar benefits as Arshim does himself, I think this will end up being a solid choice. And last but not least, we have the Bruce is Loose. So I played a lot of high voltage 2 times ago when it came back around. And this ended up being one of my more favorite, fun lists that actually did a lot better than I was expecting it to. Unfortunately, since High Evo was banned, we did have to yoink the Hulk out of here, but we have enough of the Hulk family to still do some big smashing things. So the idea with this deck, pretty simple. We're trying to use that extra energy in this mode to proc Bruce more often, more easily, just get down an early Havoc without having to worry about the downside, flow energy with the Sunspot, make a cheaper She-Hulk, pump up a Red Hulk because our opponent isn't spending all their energy. We have Hulkling here just to be on theme, but also because he can have some randomly powerful effects. Wiccan to get more of that excess energy, and then our generically good suite of 3 costs, Jug, Negasonic Copycat, and Cosmo, because we are running a lot of big, tall dudes, so we want a way to protect them. If you have Bruce Banner and you've been waiting for an opportunity to use him, I have to say High Voltage has to be one of the best and most fun. So if you're looking for something to take advantage of some cards you maybe don't normally get to play, this is a list I would recommend. And one more piece of info before we close things out here. We did have a post from Griffin over on the Discord mentioning because of the ongoing back-end work they're doing related to self-publishing, Twitch drops are unfortunately not going to be happening this month. However, they do have some plans to kind of make up for that. Basically, they're still trying to figure out if they can get the volts that were previously going to be in the Twitch drops just delivered via inbox or code or some other way. So we'll keep an eye out on that, and I'll update you on that as we get more news about that. But yeah, currently no Twitch drops this month, unfortunately. If you're curious about the Iceman variant and Border, as well as some maybe other stuff, stay tuned. It sounds like they're going to be making that available through a free webshop code sometime this month. So again, stay tuned for that. I'll update you when we have more information. And while we're talking about the webshop, I know there are different regions where the webshop does not currently work. But there is a little bit of a workaround there. You can actually use a VPN to get into the web shop if it is not allowed in your country. I don't know if you can actually buy stuff through that, but you are able to do the free code rewards. You're able to claim your 200 credits a day, all that stuff. So yeah, if you're in one of the regions that doesn't have access to the web store, that is one way you can get around it. And that's going to wrap it up for everything you need to know to dominate High Voltage Overdrive. As always, links will be in the description to import the decks into the game if you want to try them out for yourself. And I'll be streaming a bunch of this mode today, trying out a bunch of different decks, seeing how the mode feels, grinding out some of those reward currencies. So if you want to check it out live and see how it plays, you can find that live here on YouTube or over on Twitch. But that's going to wrap it up for this one. Let me know what you think about High Voltage Overdrive. I'd love to hear it, but I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, remember to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.